If you're a Christian and you're heading off to college, or maybe you're already there, you're going to want to stick around to hear what our two guests have to say about college ministry. Hi, and welcome to the Binmin podcast. We know that the Christian life can be hard to figure out, but we also believe everyone should know their next step in their Christian life.
I really think that you're going to love today's episode because whether you have had a great college experience or have had an awful college experience in it or just maybe over your shoulder and you're a young professional, today we're going to talk about how college changes us, and especially the story of two guys who saw God change their spiritual lives in some pretty specific ways that I think we're all going to learn from.
Welcome to Binmin. Binmin stands for But If Not Ministry. And just like the three young men that were thrown into the fiery furnace in Daniel chapter 3, you should be ready for your but if not moment when you need to know and act on your next step in your Christian life, regardless about what anyone has to say. I'm Pops.
I'm Bob.
Today we have two very special guests, and they're going to talk with us a little bit, as Bob said, about how the Christian experience in college was profoundly affected by ministry on campus.
And for Keyon, it's especially his experience at men's water polo that was so changing. Is that right?
Absolutely not. No, that's not. It's Slims at midnight.
Well, I tell you what, let me introduce you guys so that folks know who you are and where you're coming from. Tyler Reif is a graduate of Purdue University.
Boiler up.
And he's also the executive director of community counseling at Luma Counseling in Indianapolis, which is devoted to helping those in the community find real light and help through Christ-centered, biblically based, culturally responsive, clinically informed counseling. Some good counseling. But his leadership skills and passion for life change did not come out of nowhere. You got a backstory, man, because you've spent over 15 years with InterVarsity Christian Fellowship, where you focused on reaching primarily fraternity and sorority students for Christ by leading one campus and then 2 states. And if that wasn't enough, then being on the nationwide leadership team. So you could say that Tyler is someone who's pretty passionate about college students. Is that fair?
Love it. Big part of my story. Excited to be here with you guys.
Cool.
Thank you.
We're really glad to have you, man. Yeah. Keyon Atkins is a proud graduate of Arkansas State University.
Wolves up. Wolves up.
Where he experienced some powerful life transformation as well. We'll talk about that in just a sec. And was also a key leader in the Baptist Collegiate Ministry, where you worked full-time even after graduating, and now is a full-time staff member for outreach at College Park Church in Indianapolis. You're also a seminary student, and you continue to be involved in young adults and college-age ministry in your local church.
Yes.
Did I get it all?
No, you forgot fashionista. Just got to put that in bold letters for me. Honestly, I probably wanted to buy shoes on the way here, but I was late. So I'm going to spare everybody that. But shoes and clothes, that's me.
Always.
Through and through. Yeah.
Always. Love it.
Thank you, Keyon. And I think everybody's happy to know that about you.
That's right. We're really glad to have you guys here.
Tyler, I want to start with you. Tell us a little bit about what happened when you were in college, how God impacted your life while you were at Purdue.
Yeah, that's a fun question to answer, because when I went to college, when I stepped on the college campus, I wasn't searching for God at all. Like, he was not anywhere on my bingo card, if you will, of what I was thinking college was going to be about. I went to college thinking I was going to have a lot of fun. I was going to make a lot of friends. And I was going to build a resume that one day I could continue doing those things the rest of my life and make money and do everything that I thought I should do with my life. And but God had a different plan for me. When I joined a fraternity, I joined it for those things. But God totally flipped the script of my life through really good relationships in that house. There's a good fraternity brother of mine where we're just naturally good friends, loved hanging out, loved pulling pranks on each other and all the things you do in a fraternity. And we would go on runs together frequently to keep our bodies up for the ladies,
That's right.
Gotta chasing girls was part of our life at that point. But on those runs, he would ask me questions about my life, and he'd say, "Hey, what do you believe about God?" And those questions started to turn the course of my life. And one of the way he said it, that just kind of continues to kind of reverberate in my mind, even randomly day to day in my life today, was if Jesus really lived and he was really here, and he lived and breathed and walked and talked, and he really died and he really rose from the dead, then shouldn't our entire lives revolve around that truth? And when I came to college, it's not something I had in my mind at all, that kind of thinking. But that started to change how I thought. I was like, if it's true, if he's real, if it's a real story that he really rose from the dead, then it means everything.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
That is so convicting. Keyon, I want to ask you, because what I've heard is that you have admitted that God saved your life.
Oh, absolutely.
Through church, college ministry, and through the local church. And I'm assuming you mean more than a physical saving of your life, but your spiritual life. I'm really looking forward to hearing what that was all about.
Yeah, so I grew up very small town Arkansas, single parent household, only child, and as I was growing up, I thought, hey, I am gonna get saved and walk the walk and talk the talk. But when you grow up in the South, it's very easy to walk that well and be in the Bible Belt and get past that. But I went to college at Arkansas State, and freshman year, a friend of mine was like, hey, you should come to this college ministry. It's called 747. And I was like, okay, I'll just tell my mom, like, hey, I went to church, and she'll be happy that I did that. And I called her and, all those things. But I went, and it was a big shock for me because I had faked it so long of being a believer that I think when people ask me questions, I was like, oh, I wasn't prepared for that. I wasn't ready. And so once I started going to this college ministry, our college pastor, Jonathan Freeman, reached out and was like, hey, let's get coffee, let's talk. And we went to the Edge, which was right off of campus, and I was telling my story. And for the first time, I was like, yeah, I'm not a believer. And he asked maybe the boldest question a college pastor can ask, and it was, where do you go if you were to die right now? And I was just like, oh, I'm going to hell. Just a very simple and quick, like, yep, this is my story and this is what's going to happen. And he was like, yeah, let's fix that. Let's talk through that. So I remember him sharing the gospel on a napkin. And I remember he was like, you can, follow the Lord today and you can actually be saved. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. So how do I do it? And he was like, let's pray, let's talk through it. And since then, I've been involved in that ministry and involved in that local church, and was able to intern there. So the Lord really turned my life around from that moment. Yeah.
So awesome.
Yeah, man, you guys, knowing you guys, both of you guys fairly well, like, I know there's so many different pieces of your story, and especially in that season of college life, that's in some ways scratching the surface. Like, but what would be one thing maybe for young adults, young guys, young gals of your story, especially coming out of college stuff, that you wouldn't want them to miss?
Oh, I definitely would say have a good mentor. You want to have someone that you can meet with on a regular basis, but also know that they care for you deeply and treat you like a son or a daughter or whatever the case may be. And Jonathan was that for me. From, like I said, day one.
That's like your college pastor.
My college pastor, yeah. He was the guy that was like, I'm going to walk you through everything. I'm going to teach you how to read your Bible. I'm going to teach you how to journal. I'm going to teach you how to share the gospel with other people because, we want to share the gospel and keep spreading those things. And he was that person for me. And so having a mentor where you can kind of say like, hey, I'm having a hard time, or hey, I need help knowing how to help my friend, or just all these different things, it pays off in the long run. And I know I can call Jonathan now and he would be like, all right, here's my advice. And recently I've had to do that. And so it's been helpful to kind of have him in your back pocket, so to speak. So have a good mentor for sure.
That's great.
Helpful. Yeah. What about you, Ty?
Yeah, I'm going to say two things.
Bring it.
Sorry
Yeah.
about that.
Double up.
Start the clock. Yeah, two things. One would be know that God is pursuing you. Because I didn't go in there with a list of my top fives of what I should do when I went to college. What should I do? How should I grow my faith? But God pursued me and turned little pieces of my life that I wasn't aware of so that I could find God in the midst of my everyday life. So just knowing that God is pursuing you, I think, can be a really encouraging thought. And secondly, relationships in college are so key. Mentors, but also friendships. You know, bring God in the center of whatever friend group you have. That's what my buddy did, who reached out to me.
Yeah.
He didn't just kind of take the status quo. You know, talking about God and faith can be awkward at times, especially if you haven't broached that yet. But to do it and to take the step, like worst thing that goes wrong is you get into a spirited conversation and you grow a little bit, you know, but you go deeper and most likely, and you could change somebody's life and yours.
Yeah.
Amen.
Yeah, that's so true, man. Well, I think that's something that I really respect about you guys is that your guys' this story of such a big shift started in college, but both of you guys decided to make a longer term investment in college age folks, men and women, beyond your own college experience.
Yeah.
So even as you guys have done that over the course of a number of years now, what would you say is one thing that you're just kind of seeing in the lives of college students or young adults? Obviously, not everyone listening to this is in those 4 years of college right now. A lot of folks are young professionals or something like that. But in that young adult phase of life, is there something that you're seeing that's important, whether positive or negative, as you interact with young people that you just want to call out?
Got it.
Yeah, I think one of the things I love about today's college student is they're not afraid to think about their inner worlds. You know, if you'd asked, you know, maybe 20 years ago, you know, talk to somebody about counseling. You know, I get to be involved with Luma counseling, you know, helping hurt people in the city of Indianapolis encounter Jesus amidst their struggles. Now college students are willing to do that, and they're willing to grow, and they're willing to have hard conversations. They're willing to go to a mentor, and they're desiring to do that. And I think that's such a healthy posture to be in, to say, hey, what is going on in my life? Reflecting on that and having somebody else speak into that. Now those can be flat sides too. We can kind of navel gaze and think too much about, you know, the anxiety I'm feeling or the stress I'm feeling, and make that kind of a big thing in our life that doesn't need to be. And yet it's a great opportunity if we step into that in a really healthy way and align it with what God is doing in his word, and have healthy counsel kind of help us work things out in our life.
That's really good. It makes me think of a recent episode we just did with Ryan Berg, talking about some of those things, even especially anxiety and all that. That's really good. Yeah, so true. Young adults saying that.
I think what I have definitely seen in someone who is a little less seasoned in life, so I'm maybe a little closer to some of those groups, but I think they're hungry to help each other. There's a sense of, how do I connect with a person or someone in this group and care for them well in their soul, and, you know, share the gospel, but ultimately, how do I walk with you in this season? And I'm really encouraged by that, because I think I felt like I was able to see that in my college groups and the ministry I was in, but I also think just seeing people come together, band together to love one another and read the Bible together, that's really an important thing and a huge thing now. And so I would definitely say that's a positive of college ministry and college students nowadays.
You guys also are, I hate to say it, just keep using that word example, but you guys at least are a story where, to me, it can feel easy to pit a college ministry versus the local church. And say either, okay, there's ministry that's happening in a church setting, but then there's ministry happening on my campus ministry or a parachurch ministry or something like that. Is that the way we should think about it? Are those two things pitted against one another? Is this an either or? Is it a both and? Should those things work together? Should they not? Just tell me, what does that look like?
Yeah, I think honestly it's a both and. I think there's that great collaboration of, we have a college ministry where you have your group, you have your people, and you have a pastor or pastors that are dedicated to helping teach you and lead you well. But there's also that aspect of college ministry goes away. And something that my college ministry taught me was, in 4 years, 747 is gone. It's not there for you. How do you be involved in this church and be a member, be someone who invests and volunteers? And so, yeah, it's definitely a both and.
Yeah,
You done, Ted?
agreed, both and. But I think if I were to say kind of anecdotally in my life, what I've seen as I've invested in college students is, if you've never had any local church in college and you've relied solely on your college ministry, I've seen a lot of students leave, kind of be a little jaded with their church experience next, because the expectation is that it should look exactly like it did in college. And sort of people are, and I kind of fell into this a little bit, you kind of look for your college ministry experience in the local church. And that's, it's not really a fair thing to do. It's different. But both are really valuable. My college ministry, it's really good for relationships and helping apply what does following Jesus look like in this specific setting.
Yeah.
So college ministry is so good at that.
Yeah.
And but you also need the local church too to help you the rest of your life.
That is so convicting. Well, we come to that part of the program where we need to discuss next steps, which is what Binmin's about, helping people to find their next step in their Christian faith. So I would ask each of you, what would you like our audience to take away from this episode as their call to action, as their next step?
I'm going to let the pastor take that.
Yeah. I'd say if you don't have a spiritual community, you should find one. And you should start with looking in your local church, get plugged into a local church, but absolutely find a college ministry that can help you flesh it out on a day-to-day level. Whatever are you an athlete? Find an athlete ministry. If you're a fraternity and sorority student, find somebody who help you can do that. On college campuses, there are so many target specific groups that can help you really live it out. And but get plugged into your church as well. Find your community.
Yeah, and I'm going to stick to that trend of having a mentor, but find an older gentleman or woman in your church and say, hey, could you disciple me or teach me or meet with me every once in a while? Because you'd be surprised how many people actually want students our age or in our age group to do that. And so it's so important if you just kind of say, hey, I feel like this person can lead me well. Hey, can we meet every now and then for coffee and talk through different things? And so that's really important and something I would say take away from this episode.
That's wonderful.
That's really good, you guys. So there you go. What's your next step? Find a community or find a mentor. Maybe you're a college student who is in the throes of studying and getting things done for classes, and you need to find either a community, including the local church, not just a ministry, or maybe you already are at a church or trying to plug into some sort of parachurch ministry, and you realize, maybe I think I need someone to disciple me, someone who's a little bit more seasoned, a little bit more godly, or maybe a lot more seasoned or a lot more godly, to just meet up for coffee once a week, once a month, whenever, so that they can pour into my life. And just thinking a few years down the road, maybe even, they become that person you can call on the phone as well. But man, is it ever evident that in every season, including college and post-college, we need people to help us in our spiritual life. So we hope that's helpful for a next step for you in finding a community or find a mentor.
Oh, man. Thank you, Bob. And thank you for joining us for this episode of the Binmin podcast. We know that the Christian life can be hard to figure out, but we also believe that everyone should know the next step for making their spiritual life more important to them. Binmin is a resource ministry dedicated to helping you discover that next step.
Yeah, so you can check out other episodes and get the show notes for this at binmin.org. And as always, if you haven't already, sign up for the newsletter so you can get some exclusive content and updates from us, like, as you probably noticed from this episode, if you're watching on YouTube, our brand new set. It's looking pretty good. If you're just listening with your ears, go over to YouTube and check us out because the set's looking pretty good. You guys are looking pretty good too, though.
Thank you.
But that's the kind of stuff. You can get updates on the newsletter. And as always, a quick way to find out about us that are just pinging you and dinging you is TikTok or social media, and share that with others. We love hearing what's going on in your spiritual life, so please be letting us know if you found a community or if you found a mentor or other ways that you're taking your next step, because we love figuring out next steps in our spiritual life together. Thanks for watching, thanks for listening, and we'll look forward to next time. God bless.